So the screen, oh, there we are. Okay. All right. Good morning, everyone. It is Tuesday, March 11th, 2025. This is the House Republican Caucus. Just a couple of reminders, Wednesday, Thursday floors will begin at 1 and Friday is at 9:30. Also, just be mindful that your committees, whichever committee you serve on, may be starting earlier or going later this week because of crossover week. March 14th is the last day bills can make it for crossover. Let's see. The BAA is up for action tomorrow, so we will hear that, and I will motion to deliver to the governor tomorrow. So he gets that tomorrow after we vote on it. There will be a joint session on March 20th at 10:30 a.m. for judicial retention. And tomorrow there is supposedly protests going on. So security and public safety is preparing for that. My understanding is there are two separate rallies. One is pro-trans, another one is anti-trans. So just be aware of that. And there's a possibility of only one door being open tomorrow to access, which I believe will be the loading dock door.
This one here.
So on that side of the building. So just be aware of that. If your door that you normally try to get in is locked, you're going to have to go around to the loading dock area. At some point, House Rules is going to have a House Rules Committee meeting. I think the ethics panel, I don't know if they have some policy changes they want to review. So we're trying to get a House Rules Committee together, as well as Joint Rules is going to try to schedule a meeting for policy dealing with the Capitol Police. So I think JLMC, the Joint Legislative Management Committee, handles some of the Capitol Police and Joint Rules handles another section. So just to keep everybody aware of what's going on. Today you heard the speaker state that H458 is a committee bill that came out of committee. And if it's a committee bill, it gets noticed. So it is noticed today for tomorrow. Notices for tomorrow. So that bill will be up for action, even though it isn't on the notice calendar. It is a bill from, it's a committee bill from Energy and Digital Infrastructure. The purpose of the bill is proposing to revise reporting requirements required of the Agency of Digital Services and to require the agency to provide publicly available information containing details regarding information technology projects. On notice for tomorrow are 7 bills. 7 bills plus the BAA, 3 of which actually were sent to approach, 1 to Ways and Means. I believe when they come back from those committees, they have to be noticed again. So they won't, if they deal with them today, they'll notice tomorrow for Thursday, or if they don't get to them today, they notice Thursday for Friday. So just be aware of that. So there are 4 bills on the calendar for tomorrow, notice, as well as this H458. I know this one came out unanimous, so I'm looking to Chris Howland, who is on that committee, that you may know.
So I guess the Agency of Digital Services has been bounced around since 2017 and the like. Got assigned to Energy and the committee for whatever the rest of that name is. And what this bill basically does is has the agency reporting on all the projects that they do for all the rest of the agencies in state government. And it's 2 parts. It has an annual report, and then it has an item they call a dashboard, which is a 1 or 2 page video screen that checks things off as to the progress. It's means to track the expenses from the initial proposal projects to what the projects actually cost as they get developed and delivered. One of the big issues in computerization is the unemployment or applications that was trouble in 2020. So it came out of the committee 9-0. It just kind of brings the agency of digital services forward to the legislature annually and then updating as frequently as they may. They're what they call the dashboard, gets updated regularly, but at least monthly.
Mike Southworth or Richard Bailey, anything to add to that? You're on that committee, those two. No? No. Okay. Marty.
I just question the need for that particular bill. My understanding is all that information is already available, at least when I used to work with ADS. It was all available and it was all online already. Why do we need it?
I think it just codifies it, and I think there's quite a bit of discrepancy in interpretation from initial conception of a project to what it really costs as it goes through and it gets modified. Many of these projects are several years, 6 years in duration, and things change. I think some of the committee wants to report to the people of the state where this agency is spending money and the cost of computerization of.
I thoroughly understand all that. I just thought that those reports were already available, that we didn't need a law to make them do it.
Well,
Obviously, your committee disagrees.
Dave, I think there's other things coming out that there will be disagreement with. This particular one, maybe we didn't hear from others that were in disfavor. It's very confusing to me as Nikki New Guy as to how these things work around here and the great amount of expense and time that the agency reaches out to the agencies they service. They're really a service agency to the others. And I mean, 37.2 million of the BAA was a crossover on this post-charging of expenses because they backbill like what's damage when you rented the apartment, you pay the year after. You pay when you leave, you don't pay before you break it.
Anyone else questioning anything on that particular bill? No. Anything else? Mike?
Yeah, I apologize. I probably should have just had you send it out, Patty, but there's two, hopefully it's the last couple of resolutions I got for the year, because I'm about resolutioned out, but we've got Medal of Honor one I'm doing on March 25th. That one's already laid on. But for April, we've got Military Month of the Child and the USS Vermont submarine commemoration resolutions. I should have just had Patty sent out and say, do we want to just do it as a caucus? Are we all good with both of those? They're both very positive, good things, military related. So if nobody has objection, I could just have them speak to the caucus on
I
that.
mean, if you want to send it to me, I can send it to the caucus and barring
I already did. I already
objection.
sent it to all the House Republicans. So, and then I shared it with everybody, the
Okay.
Dems, the independents, the progressives.
Okay, does anyone have objections to me signing on for the caucus on any of those? All right, so
Okay.
I'll let Mike Chernak know. Okay? Yep,
So yeah, Military Month of the Child and USS Vermont.
okay. Okay, Jim Harrison, I know you were going to talk about.
Just going to give you a quick high-level view of.
You can come ahead in front of me.
Jim Harrison, Sheriff. No, that's fine. The BAA, as Patty mentioned, is on notice today, and it's up for action tomorrow. And as she mentioned, I believe the indication is the Senate voted it on it, the conference committee report before they left the town meeting, sent it over. It's very likely, I think, that the governor may in fact veto the bill. I think he's publicly telegraphed that. But the changes from where it passed, from when it passed the House, the Senate, as you might remember, there was $20 million that was supposed to go back into the treasurer's office for bond buy down. Okay. House took 14 of that million of that 20 million and spent it on the GA housing program to extend that, money to VHCB, and there's another spend in there as well. The Senate took an additional $2 million, so now we're down to or up to 16 million of the 20 million being committed for. The Senate added 3 new positions to the Human Rights Commission beginning May 1. They added an additional position to the AG's office to fight federal changes. The House had added 1 new position for, help me on the word, pre-trial restitution. Anyhow, it's diversion. No, well, whatever.
I don't know what you want.
Okay, no, the House added a position to the AG's office that you folks had talked to Jay. The administration didn't like it, but it. Remember? Huh? No. The position in the Attorney General's office for pre-trial. It's not diversion, but it's
Mediation?
like diversion.
Mediation or something?
Okay.
Yeah, it's pre-trial, not pre-trial.
Okay, whatever. The House added a position. The Senate added an additional position, so 2 positions for the AG's office, and they put funding in for it. And then they added 1.8 million for grants to flood impacted municipalities, and added another $220,000 for the emergency survivors benefit fund, which was out of money, as there were 3 more survivors or 3 more deaths, I guess, in the past.
Pre-trial services, yeah.
Yeah, okay, sorry. I can't remember the right term. So anyhow, that's the major changes. Senate passed it, I think, along party lines, although it was a voice vote, and they'll come back and we'll vote on it. Okay.
Wasn't there a conference committee?
This is the conference.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Try
that's
to
the conference
explain
committee
what,
conclusion?
yeah, this conference committee
Oh.
took the Senate additions, basically,
Yeah, they did, they made a few changes, but not,
not a lot of changes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mike?
Adding of positions, that refresh my memory, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't recall BAAs in the past adding, isn't that now becoming policy stuff again, adding into this? When you start adding position, you're not truing your checkbook up now, you're
No.
you're adding, you're infusing, injecting, so you're doing, that's policy stuff, correct?
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, but you can argue everything is policy.
Sure.
Because, you know, putting money in to take care of Medicaid caseload is, if you don't do it, obviously you're gonna reduce benefits. So, I mean, whatever. I mean, yes, but yes.
I just get that if I've got $2,000 in my checkbook, I have it budgeted to spend 2,000, and then you tell me, and now I've got another bill for $500, I've blown my checkbook. It
Right.
doesn't allow me to keep my checkbook trued up.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it from,
yeah, I think it's a difference. I mean, the Medicaid thing, it's already a program. We're overspending in that. That's what budget adjustment should be for. But to add new positions, that's a policy issue, to add the new positions, which is completely different from the Medicaid issue. And I think that's what people take offense to, that we're using the budget adjustment for a policy bill instead of a pure budget adjustment mid-year. I think.
Will there be amendments offered on the floor?
Conference committee is up or down.
That's it.
Oh,
Up or down.
Yes, no.
And it's the,
And it goes to the governor, and then the governor does whatever the governor does. If he vetoes it, it'll come back to the House because it's a House bill. And then we will choose to sustain or override his veto. If it's sustained, then, you know, the question will be is what do we do to satisfy his concerns if it gets that far?
And if it's not sustained, does it go to the Senate?
Goes to the Senate, and if they override, it becomes law.
Okay,
But both would have to.
correct, yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
So that's tomorrow. In order to sustain, we will need 51 votes. There are 56 of us. So in order to sustain, we'll need a minimum of 51.
We're gonna roll call it then?
I don't know.
The Senate didn't voice vote. I mean, it doesn't really matter. We probably could figure out what the vote would be. If it is vetoed, that will be a roll call. That's an automatic roll call. So, I mean, I don't see any benefit of. I mean, you're already voted on record before. So I don't.
Last time the BAA was voted out of the House, there were 51 voted no, and 5 of us were absent. So. Marty?
So Jim, if the PAA is vetoed and sustained, what then will House Appropriations do? In terms of a new PAA or not do anything at all?
Well, we could, to be honest with you, that I don't know what we'll do. The easy thing would be to satisfy the governor's concerns in that hypothetical situation and pass a clean bill. And we can do it in one day if we want to. You could put most of the changes in the C section of the fiscal year 26 budget. If there was something that really needs to happen sooner, you could attach it on another bill or a freestanding bill. For example, there is some emergency funding for nursing homes. And I think it's what Valley Vista, that's in, you know, there's a concern that, you know, they can't wait until June, or May when the fiscal year 26 budget. So you could take those and put it on another bill, and, you know, we could actually, that's not my call.
She's not.
As you know.
I know that. We need to think about what next.
Yeah, yeah,
Jim, I just have one quick question.
sure.
How much were those positions roughly? Those 3 new positions they added?
Well, it's only adding a little bit because it's just for a month or 2 months.
Oh, they're not full, they're not.
Well, you're starting at May 1, for example, you know, you got May and June.
But next year.
But then there'll be a next
Yeah,
one.
yeah, but we haven't made that decision in the fiscal year 26. We're gonna continue the funding. Obviously, you would, but.
But they would still have to know how much the position is. Even if it's 2 months.
Okay, so-
Prorated.
125.
Figure 125,000 a position with benefits. In the Attorney General's office, it's probably a little bit more because they're lawyers, but.
60 grand, 70 grand, maybe?
Or more than that, because.
Because you got benefits, I mean, benefits. yeah.
I think the average human rights commission salary is about
You know,
90,000.
I think for most positions, I mean, you gotta add between 100 and 125.
Right.
Right, yeah.
To fund it, and again, lawyers are gonna be more.
That's all I know.
Jim, I don't remember, what were the positions? They're for the AG.
Yeah.
Well,
One
what
is to
what are the
assist them
jobs?
with federal challenges in court to changes that the administration in Washington is taking. The other is to whatever you called it, that pretrial
Services.
justice that the AG's office have been asking for.
Right.
Okay. Mark?
Jim, was there any testimony? I know that the state's attorneys are asking the attorney general to pick up some slack. Was there any testimony on that? Because again, if they're new position, I would think that they would certainly look for that maybe first.
We didn't. I don't know if judiciary,
I asked one question.
you did.
Yeah, I asked them if they could prosecute, and they told us that they had prosecuted a child molestation, I think roughly, so they can.
They can. They have statewide authority. They can.
I just know
Yeah.
that the state's attorneys are asking to pick up some of the slack because there's so many cases out there that they're behind, but the attorney general isn't willing, I guess, or.
I think Tom can.
Yeah, the state's attorneys, they were in our ask. They were, I think, the second in line. We had like 6 different asks, and they were the second most important for the committee. There was 5 of us. They were the most important. And figure out which 5. And the number 1 ask was to fund the pretrial services.
Okay.
And as far as, you mentioned the AG or the caseload for the state's attorneys, there's a whole thing going on, which you may or may not have read about in the news, between the AG's office and the state's attorneys having a little tussle over trying to get the AG's office to take more cases.
Right.
That's to be determined.
Michael.
She's a little too busy right now with other stuff, I guess, but the question that I have is, what does the Human Rights Council do? Because, I mean, some of us are brand new.
I didn't hear the question.
What does the Human Rights Council do?
Human Rights Commission.
Commissioner?
Yeah, they take up discrimination cases like housing discrimination, employment discrimination cases, things like that.
Okay. And I know that, I don't know if Lisa wants. Oh,
If appropriate, I'd just like to make a comment about the fiscal year 26 budget.
sure.
So our schedule is to continue working through this week, and next week is to mark up fiscal year 26 budget. If all goes according to plan, we will try to get a straw vote a week from this Friday on the big bill, and then actually vote out a copy of it the Monday, well, 2 weeks from yesterday. That's what we're hoping for. It's not going to be easy. As you might expect, the governor proposed a budget which allocated all of the available resources. A big chunk of it for helping buy down property taxes this year during our transitional on education. And then a whole lot of other needs. We have, over and above the governor's budget, from the committee letters, from other groups that have asked for additional funding, now in excess of $320 million over and above the governor's budget.
Oh my gosh.
I don't remember any suggestions of where to cut in the governor's budget. You can't spend the same money twice. I'll leave it at that. All these nice committee letters that we're getting, 11-0, 10-1, with $30-40 million in extra. Thank you very much. Poor Wayne over here is going to have to be the bad guy.
Well, additionally, these bills that are going to make crossover, if they have
This doesn't
money,
even
that's
include
without,
the bills.
that's without the
That
bills,
are coming,
right.
will be coming to us. So, anyhow, I just FYI, that's all.
I have a question. With town meeting day, but 92% of the state's budget's passed, does that affect the 77 million? Do we know what the increase in property tax will be with all those budgets yet, or do we not have that understood?
It's not reflected in what the schools used the December 1 letter.
Okay,
So if
that's 77 million.
Our school estimated, I don't know, 8.5% tax increase based on our per pupil spending. But so that 8.5% increase in the property tax rate does not include any potential buy down of rates that the governor had proposed.
Okay, so that 77 million is gonna be, that's not gonna be affected?
Oh, it'll be affected if we spend it on other areas, yes.
Right, but and my question is the 77 million still pretty much accurate? Or did it go up or down?
So I think the
No,
question
I think
is, if your school
Yeah.
budget went up, increased 8%, that does not include the 6% increase that the governor is suggesting. So you only really increased 2.5% above what his projection was. I think that's the question.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That answer.
And then, Richard,
Yeah, thank you for your school budget going up higher than mine.
Well, the budget didn't go up that much. That's just the effective tax rate when you figure in the CLA and.
Oh, no, Steven, I'm a daily weighted member over there. In I committee, our committee letter, we're nowhere near 30 or 40 million more than asked. But, and we asked, as the ranking member will tell you, we asked because if the budget comes, if the income comes back greater than anticipated, we have needs.
Sure.
So we put it in there as marking, you know, the needs that, you know, if there's 5% more, 10% more. You know, if you don't ask, you shall receive, and agriculture receives so little.
Totally understand that, and everyone in this room has different priority as to where you'd like to see money spent. And I mean, you'd be hard pressed not to find worthwhile projects. However, at the end of the day, we're gonna have so much money, and a lot of those items will not be funded unless we have the will to cut existing programs or services. Additionally, you've heard this, but it's more serious than it has been in the past. There is a high likelihood there will be some reductions in federal Medicaid support to the states. We get over $1 billion a year for Medicaid. Just one change alone, we heard testimony from our joint fiscal office on the expanded Medicaid for what they call new adults on the program. Changing that, we get 90% federal match on that. If that changed back to like a 57-43, it was like $75 million cost to the state. So that's the backdrop, and unfortunately, we don't know where that's going to land right now. So it makes it even harder to spend other funds that you may or may not have. So just telling you that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Sandy,
I just want to say that town taxes are due today, and yours is most one of the first five goals. And people that I was there all day yesterday working, and the people coming in and pay the taxes they're fed up. They're threatening to leave. And I mean, and these are well paid. I mean, we're talking half a year taxes at $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 checks being handed to me yesterday, or half a year taxes. They're second homeowners.
Yeah.
And they're all fed up, they're like, why am I here? Why am I living in this house for 3-4 months a year? And even our smaller ones at $16,000 for half a year are tired. That's all I heard all day yesterday. What are you doing up there? Are you gonna get these taxes to change? Like, only one person.
I
I did tell them, I kept telling them, like, hold on, 2026 is coming, you just need a few more seats. So, yeah, I did announce that several times.
Excuse me, Rob.
I just wanted to clarify what Representative Toof was trying to ask, I think, and that is in the Budget Adjustment Act, is that $77 million for buying down, is that still protected after what the Senate did to the BAA?
It's all part of the surplus dollars that carries over to the fiscal year 26 budget. It hasn't been spent.
That's not.
Yeah.
In the
Not yet.
BAA.
That's what I was trying to, just in the BAA. Yeah.
Ask me that question again at the end of next week.
Okay. It hasn't been spent yet. Thank you.
Education budget, I'm sorry, is about how much? What's current fiscal year spend?
2.5 billion
$8.5 billion.
on education.
So $77 million only represents about 3%.
Okay. That's not the total formula for the property tax calculation.
Oh,
There's some general fund in there.
Oh, yes, fair enough. So that would be enough to stabilize the property tax.
Well, that plus the school meals, which I think the Ag Committee already voted unanimously to keep. So the governor's proposal was the 77 million plus the savings to going back to a base universal meals program. So if you don't do the universal meal piece, the 77 million doesn't, I don't believe, unless the spending is down, does not bring it back to an average zero. Sorry if I took up much time.
That's okay. So I know that government ops is going to have, I heard 7 or 8 bills coming out. Lisa, did you want to talk about those? Mark has them with.
It's quite lengthy. There are 8 bills. And some of them are-
So I think some of them are not commercial. I don't know. I have no idea. Some of them don't even have numbers yet.
I can name what they are.
Yeah, I
That
don't,
would be helpful.
yeah, if you can name them, because I think some don't even have numbers yet. They don't have bill numbers
Okay.
yet.
Right. GovOps has 8 bills coming out this week. And the first is H67, Legislative Operations and Government Accountability. It's I guess I'll give you a brief synopsis. It's a intermittently meeting committee, sort of like not LCAR, but sort of like
JLNC.
yeah, some of the other committees that oversee technology, things like that, they'll meet intermittently. So that is creating this committee. It'll be made up of legislative members that get paid per diems, and we'll have the support of JFO and Ledge Council.
What was the vote?
We have not voted these out yet. They are being voted out this week.
No, that one we did this morning, didn't we, Lisa?
Yeah,
we did.
sorry. Yeah, okay, that one we did this
Yeah.
morning.
Yeah.
So, yeah, everybody who was there voted for.
It's 10-0-1.
At 01.
Yeah, sorry, I don't have those notes in this notebook. H1 is accepting and referring complaints by the State Ethics Commission. That is something that was discovered after we passed legislation last year on the Code of Ethics. And this is a fix to make it compliant with our constitutional role, which is that the legislature is the sole authority to judge its members. So I'm going to leave it at that. You can read the bill. If you have questions, you can come and talk to me. Michael's probably better because you're on the ethics panel in the.
I'm a subject matter expert.
Yeah. Right. H321 is miscellaneous cannabis amendments. It's got about 10 or 12 different things. The only thing that I have flagged on that is it creates a new enforcement position, an enforcement attorney within the Cannabis Control Board. H397, amendments to statutes governing emergency management and flood response. It's now going to be called something like the All Hazards Bill. We have not taken much testimony on it at all. It's an omnibus flood bill that was brought to us in a bipartisan manner by Teddy Wazazak and Gina Galfetti. And they have been working a lot
behind the scenes to bring us something that we can vote out this week. I don't have any more information on that bill yet. H 244 is state contracting standards for advertising. And that would require 80% of all state advertising to be done with Vermont advertisers. So if you wanted to advertise for a position, for instance, in for a state employee outside of the state, you would have to contract with a state ad agency to do your Facebook, your social media advertising. You could not just do it yourself. So we're going to hear testimony at my request later this week on this bill from Beth Vestigi or others in the administration.
Can't do it yourself.
Stay tuned. Right, if you're a state agency, you would not be able to advertise out of state for employees or whatever you're advertising for. The media are very much in favor of this. My own newspaper publisher, we've heard from 7 Days, we've heard from Paul Hines, Vermont Digger, we've heard from all the media, but we have not heard anything from the state administration. So we will be hearing from them. Next bill is a draft bill because it's a committee bill. The number is 25-0244. This is our annual bill for the Office of Professional Regulation. And as you know, they regulate and license all of a number of professions in the state. So there are a whole bunch, probably 20 different pieces to this bill. It's a really big bill. Some of them are pretty legitimate fees that are included in this bill, and some of them are not so legitimate, plus some new positions. There's a new position for an executive officer for the regulation of mental health professions, because next year they're doing a deep dive into mental health professionals, because there are so many people out there working, according to OPR, who are called behavioral specialists or psychologists, all kinds of different professions, and they can't quite get a handle on all of the mental health folks who are out there, who are on the front lines doing great work, but they feel like they need a new position to bring that all together. So that bill, I would say, is a little bit controversial at this point. And the next one is also a draft committee bill, 25-0242, miscellaneous changes to election law. There are, again, 20 or more pieces to this bill, going anywhere from requiring ranked choice voting for the 2028 presidential primary with a sunset, so it's like a pilot program, to universal mail-in balloting for the primary, prohibiting cross nominations from multiple political parties, enabling voters who are ill, injured, disabled, and overseas to return ballots electronically, requiring additional demographic information from candidates, requiring write-in candidates to file consent of candidacy before the election, increasing the minimum threshold for the number of signatories on a petition from write-in candidates, modifying campaign finance reporting requirements, so anybody who raises $1,000 or more. I think that's where the threshold is now. Maybe I've got the 1,000 wrong, but it would require everybody to file a campaign finance report, whether you have raised money or not. And requiring a secretary of
I
state.
think it's 500, Lisa.
What?
I think it's 500, right?
500, well, in the
Yeah.
bill now, there's $1,000 in there, and I'm not sure why or how that got in there. So it could be changing, I'm not quite sure. We've seen a lot of drafts of this bill, and this is really important. It's requiring the Secretary of State to audit all voter checklists for representative and senatorial districts, and this came out of the Bennington 1 issue. And then there's some miscellaneous deadline changes and that annual meetings do not have to comply with with some requirements of the open meeting law, and also prohibiting a second bite of the apple. So if you lose an election as a Republican, you cannot run as an independent in the general election. So if you lose the primary as a Republican, you cannot. So these are all proposed in the bill. My understanding is there may be another draft of this coming out. If anybody has any feedback, please send to the committee or talk to a committee member.
Lisa,
Yeah,
Tom has.
yes,
Going back to that advertising
yeah.
piece that you were talking about, is that gonna go to Markot's Committee on Commerce?
I have no idea. As far as I know, the answer is no, and that would be something to ask the speaker. But I have not heard, we have taken so little testimony on that bill.
Yeah.
And it came kind of out of nowhere.
So since you've taken so little testimony, I'm gonna guess that you haven't looked at the constitutional issues of the interstate commerce clause.
Nope.
If we take it like
So
this,
I'm hopeful that the administration is going to bring in their perspective of this. And literally, I just asked to have them come in this morning, so.
If we end up having time, we got so much.
We will have time.
I know there's time later in the week.
I've asked for it. It'll be probably 9 o'clock on Thursday morning.
Did you mention, Lisa, the, just,
Getting there.
you got more still?
Still got more bills.
I thought you'd hit the 8, I thought it
One
counted.
more.
Okay.
We
I'm
just.
just baffled that it's a commerce bill, it's not going to commerce.
I don't know, and I don't make those decisions, and
Has it been
somebody
strict-
needs to ask for it to go to commerce, who knows that it should go to commerce. I don't know where.
Like a vice chair could ask if it goes to commerce?
Could, I will ask,
Yeah.
but it was not on my radar, so thank you. So last bill is 25-0485, also a committee bill, technical corrections. We do one every year. It's like correcting genders and spellings and things that are misnumbered.
It's 100 pages.
Yeah, so that's it.
It's not that big.
We don't really do much in GovOps, so
Yeah.
if you have any questions,
One thing.
let us know. Sandy and BL also sit on the committee with Michael and I.
Yeah.
So,
One thing on that ethics,
yeah, go ahead.
well, a bill, it's an amendment to the ethics bill that was passed last year. And like Lisa said, it's to codify the fact that we basically govern ourselves. We take care of our own, like we did with the Bennington 1 issue. But just as a heads up, that it was amazing the amount of testimony we took. The Ethics Commission was vehemently opposed to this, and I don't know why they were so hung up on this, but felt like they had to have their hands in it. But that is not going to be the case, and unless people voted this down, but it had bipartisan support to make the change, and it was asked for by the bill was presented by the chair of the ethics panel via Ledge Council, because they noticed that problem once the bill, we've all seen that, they've been here a bit in the past where you have a bill, it didn't come out perfect. So it's kind of a technical correction, if you would, to the ethics bill from last year. So it's sort of a nothing burger in the sense of that it's a correction that makes sense. So when you all hear it, I'll probably be presenting it. Matt has asked if I would.
Good.
Unless you want to do it, you're
No.
welcome to it. But it's, so when you hear it, it's an okay bill. I don't feel, unless BL, you or Sandy feel differently. I think
No,
it's,
I
we took a lot of, we actually took
a lot of.
way more testimony than I think we should have. I mean, it's not anybody's fault, but I think there was just so much pushback from the commission that we took copious amounts of testimony that our eyes bled, but.
Yeah, and I thought it got contentious too between.
Well, it did.
Yes.
It did.
There's a whole backstory to that because the bill last year that we passed was very contentious. And also we had extensive explanation and testimony. We have like 10 pages from Betsy Ann Rass on the whole constitutionality behind the legislature judges its own members, the judiciary judges its own members. We've also had testimony from the judiciary,
They're in the same
and
boat.
also Michael O'Grady, and both Michael and Betsy Ann were wrote the original legislation way back that started the ethics panel and all of the set up all of the ethics operations for the legislature. So they are really well versed in what they're.
Yeah, but you got Betsy Ann in there using her quotations and yet she's on the right side of right on that. And she'll hold the Constitution up, say it's about the Constitution. And the only last thing I'll say on it is you can feel, my opinion, and if the other three in my committee feel differently, you can, if you were opposed to the ethics bill last year, you could still vote in favor of this because you're just amending something that already is law. And that is not a big deal.
And
Because it corrects, it can say something more better in the bill, basically.
Tom, did you have something? No, okay. Anyone else have any other bills they wanted to bring up?